Admiral Crichton of the Hegemony Third Fleet had seen many species join the Galactic Council over his 3 centuries of service. Some brought advanced technology, others vast resources or strategic locations. Earth brought soldiers. Primitive kinetic weapons, laughed Commander Velthos, watching the human demonstration on the holographic display. Look at them, still using projectiles and chemical explosives. My hatchlings play with more sophisticated toys. The human sergeant, a weathered woman named Martinez, finished assembling what they called an improvised explosive device, using common materials found on any space station. The hegemony observers dismissed it as crude barbarism. Their armor is barely powered, sneered Captain Orthok, his crystalline exoskeleton gleaming with energy shields and adaptive camouflage. No plasma weaponry, no quantum disruptors. How do they expect to survive modern warfare? Admiral Crichton remained silent, but something in the human soldier's eyes troubled him. There was a coldness there, a calculating intelligence that their simple equipment belied. When the Council had first encountered Earth, humanity had been embroiled in something they called World War III. The conflict had lasted merely 6 months, but the aftermath suggested it had been comprehensive. The first real test came during the Proxima Rebellion. The mining colony had declared independence, fortified themselves with stolen hegemony weapons, and established what they believed was an impregnable position in the asteroid belt. 3 hegemony fleets had failed to retake it, their advanced ships unable to navigate the complex gravitational fields and debris without taking catastrophic losses. Send the humans, Admiral Crichton had suggested during the strategy meeting. The other commanders laughed. What can their chemical rockets and metal bullets do against hardened positions? Velthos had scoffed. They learned the answer quickly. The humans didn't attack the asteroid base directly. Instead, they disappeared into the belt with equipment the hegemony engineers had dismissed as maintenance tools. For 3 days, nothing happened. Then the rebels' communications went dark. Impossible, breathed Orthak as the reconnaissance footage played. The entire base is gone. Where the rebel stronghold had stood, only empty space remained. Sergeant Martinez's after-action report was characteristically brief. Used mining charges to destabilize the asteroid's core. Rebel forces eliminated with minimal friendly casualties. The hegemony commanders stared at the footage. The humans had turned the rebels' fortress into their tomb using explosives designed for excavation. What kind of species thought like that? The second lesson came during the Void War against the Devourers. The insectoid race had overwhelmed 3 systems with their swarm tactics, their ships breeding faster than the hegemony could destroy them. Traditional warfare had proven useless against an enemy that treated individual ships as disposable. The humans requested detailed biological data on the Devourers. When asked why, Colonel Zhang simply replied, "Know your enemy." The hegemony provided the information, expecting the humans to develop some crude biological weapon. Instead, they requested access to the military-industrial fabricators and began producing seeds. Plant matter? Velthos was incredulous. They want to garden the Devourers to death? The humans deployed canisters filled with modified Earth flora throughout Devourer space. The hegemony watched in confusion as nothing immediately happened. Then the reports began trickling in. The Devourers' ships were failing. Their organic hulls, evolved to self-repair in the vacuum of space, were being consumed by aggressive fungal infections. Entire fleets dissolved as Earth mushrooms modified for space survival ate them from within. Biological warfare, Admiral Crichton murmured, watching a Devourer hive ship collapse as its living walls liquefied. They weaponized their planet's decomposers. But the humans weren't finished. As the Devourer fleets died, human ships appeared throughout the infected systems, not to fight but to harvest. They collected the dissolved organic matter, processed it through mobile factories, and began manufacturing ammunition, fuel, and construction materials. They're not just destroying the enemy, Orthok realized with growing horror. They're eating them. The third lesson was the most disturbing. The Silicon Collective had developed quantum-encrypted armor that rendered their ships nearly invulnerable. Their crystalline hulls could adapt to any energy weapon in real time, becoming stronger with each attack. The hegemony's most advanced plasma cannons were useless. The humans studied the problem for exactly 4 hours. Then Private Johnson, barely out of training, raised his hand during the briefing. Why don't we just hit them with rocks? The hegemony officers laughed. Admiral Krixtall did not. The humans loaded their most primitive kinetic weapons with depleted uranium slugs and opened fire. The collective's adaptive armor, designed to counter sophisticated energy attacks, had no response to simple mass moving at high velocity. The quantum-encrypted hulls cracked like eggs. But that's impossible, Velthos stammered, watching collective dreadnoughts split apart under human railgun fire. You can't defeat quantum encryption with crude kinetics. Quantum encryption doesn't stop physics, Sergeant Martinez replied matter-of-factly. Force equals mass times acceleration. Everything else is just engineering. As the war ended, Admiral Krixtall stood in his quarters reviewing the classified reports. In 18 months, humanity had revolutionized galactic warfare. They had shown that advanced technology could be defeated by creative thinking, that sometimes the oldest solutions were the best ones, and that there was no problem that couldn't be solved with sufficient applied violence and imagination. The hegemony's war colleges were already restructuring their curricula. Officers who had spent decades mastering energy shields and plasma dynamics were learning about improvised explosives and biological warfare. The humans, meanwhile, had quietly established military academies on a dozen worlds, teaching their methods to anyone willing to learn. Krixtall pulled up Earth's initial survey data. A young species, they had said. Technologically primitive. Not worth worrying about. He deleted the files and opened a new one. Humanity, strategic assessment, classified. At the top, he typed a single line. Never underestimate a species that turned warfare into an art form before they learned to fly. Outside his viewport, human ships patrolled the sector, their crude metal hulls bristling with weapons that shouldn't work but somehow did. The galaxy would never be the same. The humans had indeed rewritten galactic warfare. They had shown that sometimes the most primitive solution was the most elegant one, and that creativity and ruthlessness could overcome any technological advantage. The other species had mocked Earth soldiers. They weren't laughing anymore.